There's a principle at Vercel, which is iterate to greatness. You take a step towards that today. If you had the idea, by the evening, you have something developed that is starting to test it. Products don't really die, they evolve, and we iterate.
So this is the first principle I hear you talk about, which is smaller teams, even 2 to 3 people.
With AI, fewer people can get more done. You can have product managers that create more than just working prototypes, that can actually have working products and test them out with users. But underlying it is our compute platform. So our compute platform, which we call fluid compute, and it's highly optimized for AI. You only pay for the compute when it's being used. If you look at the general pricing wisdom, it's that, you want to price for value. What is the value that the customer is getting from your product? And the best pricing model is that you're
Hey, this is Carlos, CEO at Product School and your host on the Product Podcast. Today's guest is Aparna Sinha, SVP of Product at Vercel. Vercel is a cloud platform for building, deploying, and scaling web applications. The company just hit a massive $9.3 billion valuation after raising $300 million in their Series F. Aparna is one of the best cloud executives based on her 10 years of experience leading cloud products at Google, 3 years of experience investing in the next generation of AI companies as a partner at Pear VC, and now building the AI native cloud at Vercel. During our conversation, we dive deep into her playbook to build real AI native teams that can ship 10 times faster, the philosophy of the team of one, how AI is enabling individual builders to achieve the output of entire squads, a new organizational design for maximum leverage. Iterate to greatness. Why shipping imperfect products early is the only viable product strategy in a market where technology is changing weekly. Hybrid pricing for AI products. How to successfully balance cost recovery with value-based monetization in an AI-first world. Let's dive in.
Welcome to the Product Podcast, Aparna.
Thank you, Carlos. Great to be here.
Well, we need to start with the news of the week. Vercel announced Series F, $300 million at a $9.3 billion valuation.
That's right. We're very fortunate, very happy. We, of course, our lead investors invested, and then we also have 2 new investors, GIC and Khosla Ventures, and many of our institutional investors also invested in the round. So we're very excited about the new valuation. It, of course, means that we have work to do to continue growing. And so we're excited about
Well,
it.
let's talk about Vercel, right? Because obviously it's a big valuation. It's not that old of a company. Like, when was the company born?
Yeah, actually, the company is about 10 years
Oh,
old.
wow.
Yeah, so it started as a company called Zeit, which is about what's the now, but it's about 5 years ago that Vercel became Vercel. So the rebranding was about 5 years ago, and it became this developer experience for high performing sites on the web. And this year we introduced the AI cloud, just right around the time when I joined. Of course, we had a vibe coding solution, V0, and we had an AI SDK, which is an open source SDK, which we can talk about. But it really found product market fit about 5 years ago, and it has been a great growth journey since then.
Man, so 10-year overnight success. But yeah, I found out about Vercel around 4 years ago or so. And yes, maybe to clarify, because there's so many different AI products that are being available on the market. So how do you position Vercel?
Yeah. Well, Vercel, first of all, is a developer company. It's focused on excellent developer experience. And by that, we mean a fast, a ergonomically pleasing, and highly performant developer experience. So when you deploy applications on Vercel, you are deploying on a globally available, secure, extremely reliable cloud that also allows your application to function in the highest performance way that it can to every user around the globe. That is the secret sauce, the base of what Vercel does. And layer on top of that, the ability to build AI native applications. So whether those are chatbots or those are websites that now have AI embedded in them, or they are headless applications, there is no website, applications that are agents that are working on your behalf, perhaps helping your customers buy things, or there are so many different things that those agents could be doing. Those applications can be and are hosted on Vercel, and they benefit from that same security, that same globally aware infrastructure, and that same performance. And we've created a set of primitives to host AI applications in particular in a way that's more efficient and more reliable and more flexible, which we think is very important for AI applications.
Because in addition to building that platform, you also have your own applications, right? Like V0 could be one of them.
Yeah, and that's a philosophy. We at Vercel like to build things that we know are going to be useful. And so we build things sometimes internally that we think this is going to be a useful product. Let me build it and see as a user myself, what are the capabilities that are needed? And that's really how the AI cloud came about. We started building agents internally for ourselves. And V0 is an agentic application. V0 kind of comes from this whole idea that we empower developers to just ship things. Well, what if we could take that to the next level and empower everybody to ship things? We already have this amazing cloud that is optimized for running these applications. So if we just use AI models to then create the applications, early on from let's say a mock-up or even just from an English description, that really speeds up the development process, which is ultimately what we've been doing from the beginning, is speeding up the development process. Allows product managers, financial analysts, anybody really, to create a prototype application, share it with their team, get feedback, and iterate much more quickly. To get to then a application that is more pleasing, more what you want your users to have, and then you put it into production on Vercel, which is the same as you put any application to production.
I think speed is a keyword in AI native world. I think at least it's going to be a keyword in our conversation. I think, remember, the first time we spoke, you said like one of the differentiators of AI native companies is they ship fast. So what I would like to explore with you today is how you are shipping and building AI native products. What are some of those core principles that can be unpacked so other product leaders can benefit from them?
Yeah. Maybe if you drive down the 101 here, you see a lot of billboards, and one of the billboards says, if it's fast, it's on Vercel. So speed is really, has been the mantra at Vercel from well before, AI. But you're right that in AI, what we're seeing is it's like building in an earthquake. The ground is shaking and everything is changing, at quite a fast pace. You have new models coming out every week, sometimes every day within a week. How do you ship products in that kind of environment so that you can take advantage of the innovation that's coming quickly, right? Not fall behind, because there's alpha in using the newest and latest and best technology. But you also want to make sure that you do it in a way that's well tested, high quality, and secure. So you need a platform for shipping applications that can respond with that speed and allow you to experiment and allow you to do releases and try out new things. That's what Vercel aims to be. And
before Vercel, you spent time with Capital One, but mostly at Google, right?
yes, I spent 10 years at Google.
So between Google, Vercel, obviously very different companies, but how is your mindset as a product leader different now? What are the kind of key things that you see in your product team that are different behaviors than what you explore in your experience at Google?
I really like working in early stage products. And so even when I was at Google, I worked on a project called Kubernetes, which I started working on it when it was a small team, about 30 people, mostly engineering. And, it was an open source project. And there are a lot of parallels between Vercel and Kubernetes, because Vercel also has its foundations in open source. The beginning of Vercel was actually this project called Next.js, which is an open source project. And then Vercel became this amazing infrastructure to run Next.js front ends. And now we have the AI SDK, which is an open source SDK. It's actually one of the most popular TypeScript SDKs for building chatbots and AI native applications. So there are a lot of parallels, but I have always liked to work in projects that are early stage, and then really when a technology is a game changer technology and it has yet to find that product market fit, has yet to find like exactly how it becomes a big business. That's kind of where I like to work. And so when I think about hiring teams, and when you're in that kind of a product phase, it's always like this hyper growth. So that's what Vercel is going through. And when I was there at Google in Kubernetes, we were going through hyper growth where there's so much happening, and you have to make fast calls, and you have to have a vision, but you also have to iterate very quickly.
So this is the first principle I hear you talk about, which is smaller teams, even 2 to 3 people. Can you elaborate more on that?
Yeah, and I think that that's with AI, just fewer people can get more done. Um, we talked about V0 and prototyping. You don't need a huge team to do the prototyping. Also in engineering productivity has increased because of all of the AI capabilities available to engineers. So now, I think in particular, you can have smaller teams that can achieve a lot bigger outcomes. And certainly at Vercel, we talk about sometimes the team is one person. We say our mobile development team, and that's, a person.
So what are the skill sets of those teams of up to 3 people?
I think the skill sets are also pretty fungible, meaning that with the tools that are available, you can have product managers that, create more than just working prototypes, that can actually have working products and test them out with users. And certainly many engineers with the help of AI can create product requirements and, can test things out, can certainly do design and so on. But the ideal team has some number of engineers. You could be 2 or 3, and then somebody who's playing a business or product customer facing role, and that person could do design also, but certainly is thinking about the business side of how are we going to sell this product, how much is it going to be priced for, what is the willingness for the user to buy, doing that experimentation with users. I think that's kind of the core of a small team.
I was thinking about the quote from Jeff Bezos. He said that you need like 2 pizzas to feed a team. I think based on what you're saying, you probably
Yeah.
need just 1 or maybe just small size pizza.
Yes, and by the way, maybe that's what you were getting at with the Google versus a Vercel difference, and I think it's true of all startups. I've worked in with startups before Vercel as well, and you can move much faster with a small team. Obviously it has to be a good team. It has to be a team that is skilled in writing code and extremely motivated. I think that's something that I look for in product managers. Like they're kind of, we call it founder mode. So with small teams, you can just give everybody more agency. They have like large scope and few people, few resources. So the constraints are actually helpful, but you have a lot more agency. You can get more done.
So how do you structure your team?
Yeah, the structure of the team depends on the stage of the product. I think in early stage, when you have a technology-oriented product, you may want to align the product team to the engineering team. And so in the early phases of both Kubernetes as well as parts of Vercel, I've aligned the product team to engineering very much. So they're working on, let's say, a technical area. But then as the product becomes more mature and you have clear product market fit, I typically tend to have different types of product managers. So product managers that are more solution focused, they're more looking at things from a customer lens, and they may be going across multiple engineering teams and stitching things together as a solution. That's product management. And then I also have pricing and packaging and strategy. So those are teams that I would call them horizontal teams. They sort of like span multiple different product areas, and we've got billing and a few other areas like growth product management. That's again, depending on your segment, if you have a mostly product-led growth, so you have a self-serve segment, then you're really thinking about growth from the perspective of how can I do cross-sell, upsell within the product? How can I expose the user to the right next thing for them? If you have more of an enterprise led sales, then you want to create collateral for the sales team to go sell, and you may want to work with analysts and write a lot more of the ROI and business case associated with the product. So it's different
So
depending on the
in your
segment.
case, in Vercel, it seems like V0 kind of graduated to its own business. It's like a business unit in itself. So, but there are many other products, right? You have the platform, you have the different applications. You mentioned pricing and some of the consumer-facing applications. So is there like a baseline structure and then specific pods that you rotate? Or like how do you kind of configure the team as the SVP of product to make sure that there is some sort of alignment and people can continue moving as fast as possible?
Honestly, one of the things about moving fast is being flexible.
Huh?
So, because the market can change and your priorities can change, and they do. So, I don't like to have a very rigid structure. The original sort of, I would say the bulk of what Vercel does is the Vercel, cloud, which is both for front ends, it's for back ends, and it's for AI. And that is the vast majority of what we do. V0 is built on that cloud. So V0 is an application that is built on that cloud. So, and V0, because it is an AI and agentic application, it actually directly uses the AI cloud. And that's a really nice thing to have is we think of V0 as customer zero in some sense of the AI cloud. So the primitives that we built in the AI cloud, like we've built a gateway, we've built a sandbox. The sandbox is for executing AI generated code in a ephemeral and isolated environment. So it, doesn't pose a security risk to your production systems. That's a sandbox. The gateway is for connecting to models, and that gives you flexibility because you can connect to the latest model, whether it came out last night or it came out this morning. We always have the model available in the gateway. And so V0 as an application can switch between models and test them out. V0 can execute code in the sandbox. And then we have the underlying compute platform. You asked me, how are we differentiated? We are differentiated in the AI cloud because of these capabilities, because of our gateway, because of our sandbox, the technical characteristics, but underlying it is our compute platform. So our compute platform, which we call fluid compute, is a fundamentally more efficient type of compute than most of the compute that's available on the web today. And it's highly optimized for AI. And the key facet there is that you only pay for the compute when it's being used. And we've actually created the capability internally at the infrastructure level that we utilize the compute even when it's not being used by your application. So therefore, it's cost effective for us to charge you only when your application is using the compute. This is always important, but it's particularly important with AI applications because there's a long amount of time that AI applications are waiting on, let's say, the model to do reasoning or thinking, or that they're waiting for some human to provide feedback, or they're waiting for some system to return something. And most compute is charging you. It's just you're paying for that time. That's not the case with AI cloud on Vercel.
So I hear you on the need for flexibility, especially as you are fighting so many different fights, right? At the compute level, application level, platforms, and so on. So org design aside, when you look at your strategic priorities and the different ways to structure work just to make sure that we're creating some loose direct guardrails for the team, like how do you actually balance that to prioritize the right fights?
Yeah, I think I know that there are certain base level capabilities that no matter what we build, we will need. And so those are, for example, we're going to need pricing. We're going to need like a ninja team in some sense that can price different products because we'll have new products coming, all the time. This needs to be like a group of folks who are think about the economics. They have kind of different product pricing models in mind, and they think about, in particular, for example, how to price for AI. AI is kind of a new thing. Do you price per seat? Do you price per token? You don't want to be too cost aligned. You want to align to the value, but you also don't want to be dismissive of the costs because you don't know what the cost would be. So, this is a team that's thinking about the theoretical aspects of what are the principles for pricing. You need a team like that. You need a growth team because we are a developer product, most of which is self. So we also have an enterprise portion. But so you need a growth team that is skilled in, well, how should things be laid out in the product? How should things be laid out on the sites? Where's the traffic coming from? What are the user journeys and how do I optimize? That's it's like a science in itself. It's kind of somewhat independent of what the product is. So these are horizontal. You need a billing and monetization team. So these are some of the horizontal teams that I have that are sort of stable. They're not changing with the product surface. But then, depending on the product that we're building, and of course it's always evolving, but again, I know that I need a compute team because compute is that fundamental piece, right? But exactly what we will launch at any, like the sandbox is something that came out of like someone's hackathon project, right? So we have many new things. We have Vercel Agent that we launched, which is a PR review agent. It's very much in the kind of developer experience area, but it came out of an individual engineer that wanted to build an agentic application. I think V0 came out that way as well. It was like a very small team that was like experimenting. So you want to have flexibility there. Like, okay, you just want strong product managers that you can put on a project. Either they came up with it in a hackathon, or there's an engineer that like has come up and you want to have.
Google was very famous for allowing teams to launch things, and there were different levels of maturity. At the same time, there was an understanding that a lot of these products might not make it to the right level of maturity, and they would hence die, and that's fine. And there was kind of like a cemetery of products. So I wonder if in your case, as you are also shipping and trying different things, or you already saw some of the products that you decided not to continue investing in.
Yeah, I think in the early days of Google, we had this concept of 10x, products. And in fact, in the Google interview, one of the things we would look for in product managers is creativity. Can you think of the next big thing? And, are you going to be innovative? And it's really hard to actually gauge in an interview if somebody is innovative. But like we had developed a whole process around like testing for that and interview questions. And your question was at
Is this
Vercel.
a Vercel cemetery already, given the amount of experiments and like products that you are shipping to market?
Yeah, yeah. That
Is there like a graveyard for like products that are not making the cut and like you are already killing?
I don't think we're killing products. I wouldn't say we are not so much killing products. There's a principle at Vercel, which is iterate to greatness. So iterate to greatness means that like you maybe have a great end goal in mind, which is like 10x or huge. Like it would take a long time to get there, right? It's ambitious. But then you take a step towards that today. Like if you had the idea, like, by the evening you have like something developed that like is starting to test it. And then you sort of, you gather feedback. So the first feedback you gather is perhaps just with like another team member. And then if it looks good, you like maybe bring it to demo days. We have demo days every Friday, which are they're kind of congratulatory. Like anybody that demos is a hero. Like it doesn't matter what, and everyone like kind of like boosts you up. So then you feel really great. And then so you go to demo days and then people like come in and they say, well, let me help you with that. Or, maybe here's another idea. So products don't really die, they evolve. And we iterate. And so that's what I really like about the Vercel culture is that there's usually we take what is the nugget, like what is the interesting thing about this, and then what did we learn, and then we kind of evolve it in a different direction. And it's very collaborative. People will give you lots of feedback, and people will join your effort and
So
help
you go to the demo day, you become a hero. Then what? What's the criteria, or what happens if you win demo day?
Yeah, there's no winning. It's not a contest. Like everybody wins. Okay, everybody gets a lot of encouragement at demo day. And then it's like I said, it's very organic. People give you feedback. And then we work in the open. That's the other thing is we work. There is no sort of like, okay, I'm working on this and no one else knows about it, and I'm not going to ship it until like it's really good. We work in the open, so the entire company has access to what you're doing, and you usually have a Slack channel, where you talk about what your next steps are. And so people will give you feedback, and then you iterate on it, and then maybe you come back to another demo day, and then if it's doing well, then you might, basically say, hey, I'm going to ship this. You can ship it in many ways. You can ship it to our community. You can ship it in a private beta, which would be for select customers. And it's very organic that way. So you just, here's what the feature or capability is. Here's who it's valuable to. And I want to run this experiment. I want to roll it out and, run this experiment. And then you gather input, and people are very, like I said, there's a huge sense of agency because the motto at Vercel is you can just ship things. And that means that everybody has the ability to ship things.
So as you build in public and you said Slack, right? More than email, like how does that work?
It's kind of nuts. Yeah. What happens is if you have a project, Carlos, that you want to do, you'll start a Slack channel, and you'll maybe say, this is my goal for this project. Here's my plan. Here's what I'm going to do. And if you have other people that are interested in it, you'll add them to the Slack channel. The Slack channel is open to everybody, and then you start working. You start creating something, and then you show it off in the channel. You say, this is what I've built. Does anybody want to try it? And it's very organic like that. Usually people will weigh in and say, well, that's maybe not a good idea, or that is a good idea, or have you thought about this? And it evolves from there. It's usually you're doing something because you're trying to solve a problem, right? Like maybe it's a problem you have, or it's a problem the user has, or something that you see, and so yeah, you can pick it up from anywhere. Sometimes something comes in through a support channel and you say, I saw this, or I've got a customer that wants this, or here's a new trend. I'll give you an example. There was a new standard that was emerging. I think it's called X402. It's for payments on the web, to accept payments on the web. And there's an engineer that was just like, oh, this is cool. I want to do something about it. And he just started a channel, and he started to contribute to the open standard, which I think Coinbase is the kind of loose organizer of that standard. And he reached out, and he became like one of the core contributors to that standard. And I think he's like, just one person. And then, of course, many people were interested. They were like, so cool. This is how innovation happens, right? Like, you want people to have agency. They see something, they can do. There's not like we don't like have this top-down mandate of we need to do something about this.
Totally. I mean, it sounds like a adult builder's dream because they have their own playground and they have other builders that are joining and are creating their own things. What I'm trying to make sense of here is, for you as the SVP of product, how do you when you have to allocate your time to different things, like how do you do it, and how much time do you actually have? Is this like a 996 type of thing, or is it more like a 9 to 5?
Yeah, it's totally how much time? I mean, I think everybody has the same amount of time at the
Yeah,
end of the
exactly.
day, right? I don't think that in some sense time is a constraint. It's really what you want to pay attention to. And so I don't necessarily get involved in everything, but and I think most people at Vercel, and certainly myself, are very interested in innovation. And so when there's something cool, and we are constantly, we're in San Francisco in the middle of the AI revolution. We are on Slack with every single company, most companies, lots of startups. So we're always paying attention. And we've got all these customers that are building AI applications on our cloud, right? So my goal is to be extremely responsive. My goal is to be like 100% like being responsive is like a very high priority. And I don't just mean like responsive as in like responding to people, but like understanding where everything is going and having a view of it and being at the forefront of it and driving a lot of it myself, right? And driving a lot of it from Vercel with the people that I'm working with. So I think because we seek to shape the future, and it's not like we like officially said we want to shape the future. It's just how we are. Like this, it's like is how our founder is, right? He's living several years ahead. So we are all living several years ahead. We kind of like all like have this but then sometimes like something happens, so there's a new innovation that maybe we didn't think about. We really celebrate that and we lean into it. And we're like, wow, this thing happened. This is great. Like this means this, or this means that, or it could. So we're very agile. We're very nimble.
I remember when I came to Silicon Valley, it's like 15 years ago, I was part of a startup accelerator and I was living in an apartment with my co-founders, hacking all the time, like 996, going to the co-working space in my bike and like living in it, like you are describing. It's just hard to draw boundaries. And when I hear you talk about AI and us being in San Francisco, what are those places where AI is really happening in addition to obviously your own company?
Where is AI happening? You mean like I'm not sure that it's a physical space.
No, correct. It's probably not a physical. I mean,
Yeah.
I know there are some hacker houses, but like in addition to that, like is it X? Is it Reddit? Like where is the people like really into it?
Yeah. I do think that a lot of AI is happening in San Francisco. So it's the set of companies that are all in that kind of nexus of, the south of Market, kind of that area. And I think it builds upon each other. How do they find out about like what. I think that, yeah, a lot of it happens on X. People first announce things on X, like especially the models. But a lot of it also happens through networks, through people that are connected to each other, either as a result of a customer relationship or a provider relationship or whatever it is. Obviously, the model providers, OpenAI, Anthropic, Google, DeepMind. There are a number of open source XAI. There are a number of open source providers also that are coming up, like from China and now elsewhere. And so, yeah, often you'll find out about it on X, but often you're already plugged in, at least, because you're working with the customers, the startups. So a lot of things happen at startups. That's the other piece. And it depends what you call a startup. I mean, I guess OpenAI is a startup too. But I mean, like the earlier, super early stage
It's
startups.
so funny because large companies will still say, we're a startup within a startup. And all the actually small startups would say, we're not a startup anymore. We're growing.
Right.
Another principle you mentioned was TGLI.
Yes, the great lock-in, right? So I think that's a trend on Twitter that happened. So it's sort of like, people set their resolutions at the beginning of the year and then, kind of like it wanes, right? But we have what now 3 months left, October, November, December, in the year. And so the great lock-in is really about setting resolutions for the rest of the year because it's about the time you have, right? Not about the time that you don't have. And so we can get a lot done in that amount of time. So that's the great lock-in is really what am I going to get done in that time, and what is my resolution, what is my focus, what is my intention that I want to get done in that time.
I love that. I use that in a different, I don't use the great blocking term, but I always say there are two types of people, like the ones that say we'll do it next year, or the ones who will say we are going to do it by the end of the year.
We are definitely in the now category. The company at some point I think was even called Now. Like we are very much, because Zeit and then Now and then Vercel. It's about the now.
You said tuned into the vibe. So I heard you talk about X and like different communities, your own startup ecosystem. But like for the people who are maybe not in San Francisco yet, although they have access to online, like what are ways for them to actually tune into the vibes?
Yeah, I think it's very important in AI because these innovations can come from anywhere at any time. It's not like there's a schedule Tuesday at 10 a.m. No, it happens like sometimes Saturday, whatever time. And I do think that X is a great place to find out. I think the most important thing is actually to be hands-on and using these technologies. So if you're using the latest technologies, you will see the latest update come through. So like if you're using, the different model providers, or you're using Cursor, or you're using Vercel, you certainly will see these updates right away. They're in the change log. They're in the product usually.
Well, I have one last one. Maybe you have some bonuses afterward, but pricing, AI pricing, and you touched on it briefly before. It's a lot there to unpack, right? Like people abusing the system, companies giving away credits and using that as an excuse to showcase growth. So how do you position and price your own products in a way that it's fair and you understand what's the real performance of them?
Yeah. I mean, I think if you look at the general pricing wisdom, it's that, you want to price for value. what is the value that the customer is getting from your product? And the best pricing model is that you're aligned to the value, right? And like the antithesis of that, the antithesis of that is that you don't want to price based on cost plus. It's not about like, how much is this costing you? If you think about like you go to a restaurant, right? It's really about like, what is the value? What is the ambiance? That's, you're not like, okay, this is how much the broccoli cost plus the beans plus the salt, right? That's not. So, but in AI, AI is kind of new. You can't really do exactly that because the costs of AI is actually quite high right now. The per token costs are quite high, and there's a lot of variation because you don't know how long it'll take to answer a particular query. If you're trying to, let's say, run a research agent that's going to go do some research, well, how long will it take and how many tokens will it consume? Or, you have an agent you're asked to write a particular application, let's say V0. You don't really know exactly how long these things will take or how much it'll consume. So in AI, what we found is that a hybrid pricing model is a good pricing model. A hybrid means that part of the pricing metric is value aligned and part of the pricing metric is cost aligned. So maybe it is, some measure of the amount of tokens and the price per token that's baked into the pricing for your product. This is like we're saying, let's say you built an agent or you built an AI application. How should you price that application when you sell it to your customer? And I think there needs to be some base cost aligned metric there. But then you also want a metric that's not cost aligned, that is more around the value, and whether that's seats. I mean, some of the providers have had like $20 per month kind of seat, but that doesn't work. If it's only that, then it doesn't work. Like it could work for some users, but not for the power users who are consuming a
Exactly.
lot.
I think in that situation, like, what do you do about the power users who probably abusing the system in a way that might not even be profitable to you?
Yeah, and I think that's where the hybrid metric comes in. I think we're seeing most providers moving to some sort of metric like that.
Well, I think we covered all of the principles, at least the ones that I had for you. Is there any other bonus principle that you would like to bring up?
Well, we talked about working in the open. We talked about iterating to greatness. We talked about autonomy and agency to just ship things. Yeah, I think we talked about demo days and showing your work. Iterating to greatness. That's a big principle. I think we covered it all.
There is one I didn't bring up because it was mentioned before, which is we said where we grow, because you are literally the customer of your own products in many ways.
Yes. I don't know. Sometimes we call it dogfooding, and this is where V0, like that example, comes in, right? By building V0, um, we know what it takes to build an AI application, especially an AI application that's like taking off, that's really experiencing hyper growth. And how do you build it in a way that's secure for enterprises to use? How do you build it in a way that it has a great user experience for everybody? But is also possible to collaborate with different team members in a safe way. Those are the things that have driven us to create things like the gateway, the sandbox, obviously fluid underneath. Yeah, that's, I think, just a part of our culture at Vercel, is that we build things that we use. And I think the last thing I'll say is, when you move quickly, when you iterate fast, how do you get good quality? How do you get reliability? And that requires testing it yourself, building it for yourself, and dogfooding. And that's how you get quality.
Well, thank you for your time, Aparna, and for showing us really what it is to ship AI products from an AI native company.
Thank you for having me.